Hello everyone. Thank you so much for all of your helpful feedback and comments on my last video. I feel like I've got like my team, helping me make good videos. That's awesome. One piece of advice that someone gave me is put up a sign. Oh, it's backwards. Okay, good. Put up a sign saying where all of these discussions are happening so that if anybody finds this on YouTube, they know where to go. This is where you go. You go to the TMS wiki. Now it's hard here because the camera is backwards. It's reversed image, so it's tough to like follow. Anyway, tmswiki.org. You go there, and if you look for a little while, you'll find a link to the forum. There is a forum where a whole lot of people are discussing. Do not go to tmswiki.webbly.com. Do not go to that forum. Go to tmswiki.org. Go to org. That's where the active forum is. That's where you're going to find a whole lot of really supportive, wonderful people discussing stuff, sharing their experience, giving you feedback, and answering your questions. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, what they suggested I do next was my success story. And I think success stories are super important. As you're going to hear later on, I recovered from basically 18 years of terribly disabling chronic pain. And the biggest factor in my recovery was success stories. When you read someone's success story or watch their success video, it becomes real, and you're ready to accept the diagnosis. And we found that accepting the diagnosis is a very important part of recovery for an awful lot of people. So that's what I'm trying to do now. I'm going to indulge myself and make it kind of long. I think I have to keep it under 10 minutes though in order to get up on YouTube. So I'm going to rush. Ready? Go. Okay. So I started getting symptoms when I was 16. Tough period in my life, and I started getting pain when I was typing. The pain was in my forearms, and it happened when I was typing for like 2 to 3 hours on my computer because I love my computer. I was kind of a math computer geek type of guy. I'll just fess up. Anyway, so that's when I got my symptoms, and at first I didn't know what to make of them. By the way, it's going to look like I'm looking far away. It's because I'm trying to remember. I'm defocusing. So I got those symptoms, and I went to a doctor. They sent me to occupational therapy, and what the occupational therapist said was, you have these symptoms. This is what they said to me. I don't think it's true anymore, but this is what they said. You have these symptoms because you've been using your computer too much. The more you use the computer, the worse the symptoms will get. And what you need to do is you need to let yourself heal. You need to back off from the computer and use the computer less, and then you'll get better. I was like, okay. So I tried to use the computer less. I also did the other things they told me. They gave me exercises. They said take Advil every 4 hours. They gave me stretches. They told me to ice. They told me to heat. I did all this stuff. It did not help. I just got worse. And by worse, I meant rather later on, a year later, instead of typing for 2 hours or 3 hours before I would get symptoms, then I would get it after 1 hour. Then I would get it after 45 minutes. And then I had another job where I was testing software at a company called Cabletron. That's when things got really weird. So prior to the Cabletron job, it had gone from just my forearms, and then it left my forearms. And I don't know why it never went back to my forearms. My forearms were fine, and I've never had symptoms like for the last 20 years in my forearms. But anyway, back of my hands, both sides, back of my fingers. That was before this job at Cabletron. Then after the job at Cabletron, I was testing software, not a very fun job, and all of a sudden it went into my neck, constant neck pain, pain in my back, not as intense as some of you guys feel. It was in muscles, really, so the upper trapezius, and then kind of between my scapula down here. So that whole area was hot and painful. But even, and it got worse when I sat in certain positions. So that was scary because you need to sit in certain positions and you need to be able to look down to work, and I needed to work. Also, I couldn't, you need to have written communication to work. And so I was afraid. My skills were on computers, and I couldn't use a computer. I couldn't type and I couldn't mouse. And then all of a sudden, it started affecting my thumb. Oops. It started affecting my thumb right here. I just got this killer writer's cramp whenever I would write. And the amount that I could write kept on going down and down and down to the point where I could only write like a sentence before the writer's cramp would kick in and really hurt. So I taught myself how to write on my left side. I'm a righty. And then, sure enough, I started getting symptoms over there as well. I was like, wait a second, I've barely done anything with my left hand. How do I have this injury in my left hand? I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me anymore. So that's actually a great technique if you want to heal, is you go and you look and you say, okay, what is it about my symptoms that just really don't make sense from a physical perspective, that really need, and you can make a list of arguments and rehearse these arguments and, you know, help train these into your brain so you stop being scared. This is, of course, after you've ruled out anything dangerous and physical. Only a doctor can do that, preferably a TMS doctor. But after you've done all that, then you need to accept or what worked for me was accepting the diagnosis, and this I've heard works for other people, is making this list of arguments. So but I didn't know that. I didn't know anything about TMS. My doctors were telling me that it was physical, and that's what I believed. So I was like, oh great, I can't no written communication. What am I going to do? I said I'm going to use voice dictation software, and it turns out a lot of people get this crazy bad repetitive strain injury like I was having, and they turn to voice dictation software, and guess what happens? They start getting injuries in their throat. And guess what happened to me? I started getting injuries in my throat. So I went to a voice therapist, and the voice therapist says, oh, you have problems with hard onset and stuff like that. And they started giving me all these exercises. And can you guess whether or not those exercises helped? Those exercises did not help. So, but I tried to do them, and I just got worse. And I graduated, and I was terrified, and I just kind of limped along in my life for another 14 years. I graduated in 96. I had that Cabletron job in 95, and it was pretty much just trying to get by for, I guess that's 14 years. During that time, the diagnoses that I got changed. Before it was straight out repetitive strain injury, and now they started talking about, oh, you've got thoracic outlet syndrome, that's the problem. And then they said, oh, you've got myofascial pain syndrome, whatever that means. And then they said, oh, you've got fibromyalgia. So I went to one of the most well-known fibromyalgia docs in the country, and he said I had fibromyalgia, pressed all the points and everything, and gave me a diagnosis of fibromyalgia. But he couldn't help me. And I was just really desperate at that point. I was like, what can I do? I was too afraid to date. I felt like I had to focus on, you know, finding something sustainable, something where I could support myself for life. I can't have a family, is how I felt, because I could barely work. It was tough. It was really tough. And so I said I'm gonna collect. And during this time period when I had gone back to school, and like they would hire people to write for me. That was the only way I could do a written communication. That's how I completed my degree. My college degree is I had scribes, and I completed exams by writing them on big pieces of butcher block. It was crazy. But that's what you do to survive, right? You do whatever you can to survive because you got to. Then I said I'm going to collect these medical records together, and I hired someone to help me do that. I was lucky that I could, and I knew her for a while, and I trusted her, and eventually she said, you know, maybe there's a mind-body connection here. Are you willing to check that out? And I swallowed. I was like, oh wow, that's different. I wasn't quite ready for that. Because it's kind of invasive to have someone say that you can't trust your brain, right? It was for me. For other people it isn't, but that was how I felt. But I thank goodness I had the courage to say, okay, investigate that. Tell me what you find. And she went out and she found a bunch of success stories like this one, but written, typed out, and I read those, and I was like, oh my God, like those people are just like me. And their lives are absolutely, totally transformed by reading these books by this guy called Sarno. Maybe he's right. And I read the books, and a lot of people, when they read the books, they're like, I saw myself totally on every page. And I'm definitely a perfectionist and a goodist, but I did not see myself on every page. And it took me a long time to accept the books. Instead, what I did is I read the stories and I was like, no, those people are like me. There's no, I had thought for a long time there was no one else in the world that was like me. No one else had gone through, whose body was so incredibly sensitive to repetitive strain injuries. But these people were, and they got better. I said, okay, maybe this is me. So I started saying, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna stop being as afraid. I'm gonna start doing some of these activities, and it's gonna hurt. But I'm just going to say that this is not physical. I am fine. And I said I'm going to experiment. I had been checked out so severely by so many doctors that I knew I could rule out anything physical. And I hope that all of you guys, I want to make sure that everybody can rule out anything which is actually going to harm them. But so I did those experiments, and the experiments worked, and now I feel wonderful. Now I write on the computer as much as I want. I sit in whatever posture I want, and I'm not going to say I don't get pain. Sometimes I get pain. I have a little bit of pain right now. A lot of people who've recovered, like myself, I'm not going to put myself up and say that everything is perfect, but they'll say that they have 85%, 90%, maybe 95% pain reduction. Dude, 90% pain reduction, that is all you need. Like, that gives you your life back. So that's not a problem in my mind. A lot of people get 100% pain reduction, so good for them. I don't, and I'm totally happy. I have my life back. I have my freedom back. So I'm as happy as I can be. And I guess that's kind of the end of the story. Now we bring it up to the present. I'm typing up a storm. I'm doing all this computer stuff. It's great. I don't get to be a programmer. I had always kind of wanted to be a programmer, but I get to do the TMS wiki and the PTPN, and I'm the tech guy for that, and that feels good. It takes a lot of time. So I'm always there on my keyboard and my mouse, and I just don't have any fear anymore, and it's wonderful. So thank you, Dr. Sarno. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I really honestly hope that it helps you in your own path, and I wish you absolutely all the best. If you have any questions, come to tmswiki.org, click around until you find the new forum, the one where lots and lots of people are posting a lot and writing interesting stuff. That's the place where you want to go. Make an account, sign up, respond to my video blog. The video blog will be posted there. You'll be able to watch it in the page. That's pretty cool. And I'll respond to your questions and answer any questions you have if you find us on YouTube. So anyway, wish you the best.